Promiscuity, drugs, campus subversion, you name it. But by banding together as the crime busters, we can make
Bullshit. We're all living in 1966 while you're still stuck in 49. This is all about you getting old, but still wanting to play cowboys and Indians.
That is not true.
Well, I want to twist the conversation over. Speaking of the human condition,
Yes.
Watchmen, one of the greatest graphic novels ever made, written by one of the greatest writers of all time, Alan Moore. Such a phenomenal writer. And I'm curious, with you not being in the world of comic books and stuff like that, what was your history with Watchmen before signing on to the project? Did you hear about it? Did you watch the movie? Anything like that?
I had heard of the movie, but that's it. I know anything about it. I also had seen some of the designs, and I thought the characters, while I knew nothing about them, were really intriguing, right? And this project, probably more than anything I'd ever done, was really dark. I mean, next level dark, like really tough stuff. And the circumstances around Comedian, were historically, I may not have lived through them, but I knew about them. My parents had lived through them. So I was well aware of them. And that's an interesting thing for me. It wasn't some made up universe. I recognize this universe. I knew those circumstances politically and what was going on. And I don't think I've really had that. Like when I played Thor, it wasn't like, well, this is America at this point in time with these considerations, these politics going on. Not really, not so much. But this one is very dependent on time and place. So I thought that was really interesting. And he's another really flawed guy,
Flawed. This guy's a degenerate. And this guy's very much a degenerate.
That's true. Although I will also say, anytime playing a degenerate, I never think of myself as that, right? You're always your character's biggest cheerleader. You must believe. Like, I have played Richard III before. The guy kills children in order to get closer to the crown. I mean, does horrible, horrible things. But somehow, during the performance, you must suggest to yourself that for this guy, it was the only way. It made perfect sense. Yeah, there's a lot of pathology going on there. It is not good. It is not healthy. But he didn't see it like that. And, same thing for the comedian. He doesn't see himself as that.
Yeah. I remember what line. I will always remember this scene in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
When he kills that pregnant lady. He hits him in the face, and he's just, God damn, and Dr. Manhattan's like, no, and just bam. Like, that scene will always stick with me just because of how barbaric. Like,
it's barbaric. That's the word for it.
That is such an insane scene for me. And of course, with you not knowing about Watchmen, what was your reaction when you had to perform that scene?
Well, listen, the animation in it, the style of it, is not wildly dissimilar to a lot of the other kind of superhero animation that I've seen. So in my mind, looking at the artwork, I just assumed it was pretty much the same temperature, pretty much the same tone until I saw that scene. Like, that's not happening with Earth's mightiest heroes,
Absolutely not.
It
Absolutely
was
not.
Shocking. Like, oh my gosh, that's really hard. And by the way, I will tell the truth about this. That was not an easy session. I'm an actor that likes to say yes and try 1,000 things, but I know this director was sort of wringing his hands over me, trying to push this thing and get it to sound the way he wanted. It was not an easy session. Like, I worked for that session. That director worked for that session. When we were finished, we were exhausted after that session. Yeah, it was a tough one.
Oh my gosh.
But maybe
No. It makes complete sense when you said it. It makes sense because, like you said, the world of Watchmen is so dark and it's real. Watchmen is real. That's the thing about Watchmen, is that this isn't set in Gotham. This isn't set, like, this is real life, what was happening at the time. And kudos to Alan Moore for that, because it makes the story also more real and heart-wrenching to perform. If I ever get the chance to interview Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I'd love to talk to him about that scene in particular, because it is so difficult. And I know Zack Snyder probably had to push him places where he probably was uncomfortable going, because this, you know, like we keep saying, this character is a degenerate. Like, he's not a good person. But Alan Moore did that by design. And I think that's the genius of Alan Moore, is making all these characters extremely flawed, but have their own perspectives, and you take your own, take what you wish from each character.